Years ago, I made a rack up here for holding jackets, and it had little drawers in there. It was really nice, but I had to remove it because I'm now remodeling this bathroom, and we're gonna have a medicine cabinet in right here. And so you can see that all of my anchors would go right into that medicine cabinet. So, you know, I suppose I could figure out a different way to do it on this side, but I think instead I'd like to use this opportunity to make some sort of standing like entryway. I guess it would hold coats and maybe have a little bench down below. Not really a bench because there's not enough room to sit here. It's not like a boot bench. So I've got like, you know, 8 inches this way so that the door can open. So that's what I'm going to do, is try to come up with some sort of design for that.
All right, so here's what I've come up with. This one really took me some time to design. It took me pretty much all of yesterday to figure out how I wanted this to look. So I think I can make this mostly out of solid wood. I might end up using plywood. I'm not quite sure yet. This is all going to be painted, so I don't suppose it really matters. My idea here is to build this in sections. So I've got this lower cabinet here, which can be built as one piece, and then this upper cabinet here, which holds the coats, will also be in one piece. I've got a mirror I'll put in up here. So the idea here is that these are framed out with just thin 1/4 inch plywood, just so it doesn't get so heavy. I don't want to use the 3/4 inch on the back if I don't really need to. And then the top is just got this cove molding around it, something like that. I'll just buy the molding. Same with down here. The base trim is the same base trim as on the wall right now, so that the wall will come up to that and then just kind of look like it wraps around. I don't want any base trim on the back because I want this to set all the way against the wall. I wanted to talk for a minute about the type of lumber that I picked out for this project. It's going to be a combination of solid wood and plywood, and it's kind of the nice thing about making a painted project is that I don't have to worry about the species of wood all matching and working together. So the larger pieces, the panels, will all be either 1/4 inch or 3/4 inch plywood. I've got some pieces over here I can use for that. The one thing that I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do about were these side pieces, these side caps that are 54 inches tall, and so that would require me to get a full-size sheet of plywood in order just to cut out those 2 caps, and I really didn't want to have to buy a full-size sheet of plywood for just that. So instead what I did is I got a couple of 1x8 boards, solid lumber, that I can cut out that shape in. And these 2 boards are poplar, and the reason why I picked poplar instead of the less expensive pine boards is just because they're so wide, and to get a board that wide that's not all warped and crappy and all, you know, Home Depot-y would be really difficult. So pine boards or poplar boards are usually pretty straight. They've got a nice straight grain. They paint really well, and they only cost a little bit more than the pine boards. I think it's worth it. But to frame out the panels, I'm going to be using these pine 1x4s, and even though I only need 2-inch wide frames, I got the extra wide so that I can, you know, cut out all of the bad spots on the sides and get to the good wood in the middle. And again, pine boards are pretty inexpensive. Usually for a project like this, I usually pick up a couple of extra just in case I screw something up. And I picked up a piece of this baseboard. This just matches our existing baseboard in the house so that it can kind of wrap around the whole unit. And for the top, I picked up this crown molding piece. It's got like a little hook on the back there that'll just clip right over the top. I think that should look really nice. I'm gonna start by making that lower base cabinet. You know what I did? I just bought a brand new saw blade. And this will be the first cut on this new saw blade. Do you know the last time I bought a saw blade was probably about 2 years ago? I'm really bad about it. So this should just cut through like butter. Or like a blade through wood, like a sharp blade through wood. That's what it's gonna be like.
So here's those vertical pieces. These three in the middle are all the same depth. The two end pieces are slightly deeper. I've set up a stack of dado blades in my table saw to cut out some slots to fit these all together. Usually I set the depth for my dados at half the thickness of the wood, but in this case there's going to be a dado on each side, so I need to leave a space in the middle, so I'm only going 1/3. Now I can cut a rabbet on one long edge of each of the two end pieces. And I'll cut out the 8 shelves. I just dry assembled this section of it, and I realized that I should probably paint these pieces first because those little compartments are pretty tiny and it'd be really difficult to get a paintbrush in there. It would probably just end up being sloppy. Well, looky here, I've got some really dramatic mood lighting for assembling this. This is going to be a little bit tricky. I know when I dry assembled it, these dados were pretty tight, and it was a little bit of a feat to try to get all these pieces together at once. But like I always mention, by using dados, it really makes assembly a lot easier because the pieces kind of square themselves up. They really take the guesswork out of alignment. But really, I made these dados just too tight. They shouldn't be so tight that you have to pound them together. Luckily on this piece they're pretty shallow, so it's not that difficult. On the other hand, if dados are just too loose, this whole system would be equally hard to put together because the whole unit would be just flopping around as you were trying to assemble it and falling apart. Put some clamps on here to help draw this all together. Well, that was a bit of a challenge to get that all together. It always makes me just a little anxious when I have to assemble a complex piece like this. But it all came together nicely, and I think I'll just let this dry for now, and then I can come back and cut out the top, the bottom, and then put the back in place. So I'll see you guys next time.